I broke through the carbonate, that's how I got free. Drop it back off because there's no stopping me. Postmodern player, sample-tastic, flows ekphrastic. I get drastic, hey, watch the plastic. Yo, I name check and leave you drastic.
Welcome to the MacGuffin, episode 137. I'm Spencer.
I'm Greg.
Today we're going to be talking about Kevin Kline in honor of the release of Darling Companion this Friday, the 20th of April. Kevin Kline has a long, illustrious career in terms of film, a lot of interesting films. We're going to try and spotlight a few of those. A lot of films there, though, so if we don't mention your favorite Kevin Kline movie, don't be offended. Just let us know in the comments or email us or whatever. We know there's a lot of good ones out there. We're going to go way back towards the beginning, though, to start.
Because he's been around a while.
Back to 1983 to talk about The Big Chill, directed and written by Lawrence Kasdan. This
of Return of the Jedi and Empire
well, he
Strikes
wrote
Back?
them. He wrote them, as well as Raiders of the Lost Ark. Pretty prolific writer. In terms of directing, he also did Wyatt Earp and Darling Companion.
Hey, look at that.
Circle of Life. It's beautiful, Kevin Kline. Kevin Kline has this definite thing about, reconnecting with certain directors. I was thinking it's almost like, you got 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. It's kind of a 6 degrees of Kevin Kline thing going on, too. So stick with it as we go along, and you'll see. But The Big Chill, it's about a group of 7 former college friends who gather for a weekend reunion in South Carolina after the funeral of one of their friends. Clearly, the reunion film has become a trope in filmmaking. American Reunion just came out a few weeks ago. And this is definitely one of the main reasons why, because this was both so popular and so well done. I mean, it was nominated for Best Picture.
Wow.
It was nominated for Best Actress for Glenn Close, Best Writing for Lawrence Kasdan and Barbara Benedict. Hugely successful. I mean, an amazing group of stars before they're all stars. I mean, some of them were on their ways up. I mean, Tom Berenger, Glenn Close, Jeff Goldblum, William Hurt, Mary Kay Place, who went on to That 70s Show, Meg Tilly, the other Tilly. It's kind of interesting. It's also produced by Michael Shamberg, who's a name, again, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, you'll see again. It's just, I think it's a fun movie. It's kind of an interesting film in sort of, the way these people all sort of reconnect and what's occurred in their lives, and sort of at the same time has this backdrop of a death in it, sort of hovering all of them, and that sort of pulls out a lot of issues that were once buried and stuff like that. And I think
like death to really rattle up your preconceived notions about life.
And it's one of those films that really brought in the whole soundtrack thing to movies. Hugely popular soundtrack to the film. I think it's a fun film, even 30 years later. Just because of that sort of, reunion type of thing. I think it's something a lot of us can relate to in terms of sort of reconnecting with people from our past, and
we've all
sort
done
of
it.
dealing with death and stuff like that. I think it's a real interesting one. And, Kevin Kline, very solid in it, very good start to his career. But, he didn't really explode in terms of his acting career until a few years later with A Fish Called Wanda. The film directed by Charles Crichton and co-written by him and John Cleese. And produced by Michael Shamberg.
Oh, hey, look.
Bing, 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 bing. It's all coming together already. This is the story
Fish
of
Called Wanda.
4 people in London that are all involved with an armed robbery from different angles, and then they begin to double cross each other. Those main people are, let's see, John Cleese, who's was a barrister. Is that what they call a lawyer over there?
I think so, yeah. Good memory.
Yeah. Jamie Lee Curtis, Kevin Kline, and Michael Palin.
Yes.
Sort of a bit of the John Cleese, Michael Palin, Monty Python. A little bit of Monty Python over there. Well, a little bit of American.
I think that's actually why I first saw it. Is I was like, John Cleese and Michael Palin. This must be a Monty Python movie as a kid.
Yeah, no doubt. And this is a film that Kevin Kline won the Academy Award for supporting acting.
Definitely deserved.
Because he's so funny and manipulative and crazy. It's just he is so wackadoodle, as some people would say.
That's a good word.
It's
I
just,
like it.
Yeah, I'm not the first one to coin it, though.
I know. I'm just saying I like it.
But he's so funny and so nutty that it's hard not to fall in love with this guy, even though he's a bad guy.
Yeah, exactly.
He makes bad guys nice.
Yeah, exactly.
I could relate to him, you know, and even though you're not rooting for him necessarily, you still appreciate where he's coming from.
Yeah.
And you know, this film was hugely successful. So much, in fact, that they all reunited about a decade later with Fierce Creatures.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Not directly related, but all those actors.
I had forgotten that even happened.
And this was a film that got Charles Crichton, different Crichton.
Not the writer.
Yeah, not the writer, though he was a writer on this. But in fact, a nominated writer for it, along with John Cleese at the Academy Awards. But he was also nominated for Best Director. And he did a lot of TV and movie work before this. Not much that I've really heard of, but this was literally the last thing he directed.
Wow.
Then, boom, dead.
Oh.
So I guess he went out on the top. So that's
not a
cool.
bad note. I mean,
And interestingly enough, he was. He was the director of the Birdman of Alcatraz.
Oh, wow.
Briefly, fired a couple weeks into it and replaced by John freaking Ammer. So
wow.
that's a bit of a bummer.
That's too bad. But at least you got Fish Called Wanda under your belt. What a
good
great
on
movie.
you for that. Awesome way to end
Kevin
your career.
Kline, just so funny in this movie.
So funny. I mean, you could probably argue, and I wouldn't fight you too hard, that this was the best film of his career. I definitely think it's.
I would definitely. For me, it's probably his most memorable.
Yeah. But another one that could be in that category that he was immensely popular for, and I remember actually seeing in a theater with my dad, was Dave, from director Ivan Reitman, who, from Ghostbusters and whatnot, and No Strings Attached, which also co-starred
Kevin Kline.
Yep.
Look at that.
Boom! Yeah. So, there you go.
Dropping knowledge bombs on you here.
I remember,
MacGuffin.
I remember seeing this movie with my dad. It's a story about a politician who abruptly dies. I believe he's president.
Yes, it is.
U.S. president who goes into a coma, and they scramble like, what do we do?
Yeah.
And they find this. I think he's a car dealer, as I recall.
Something like that. Average schmo
who looks just like him, and then they pull him in to sort of fill in while he's in the coma.
Play a little duplicity.
Yes. And, it's sort of like what it means in the political world if you have a guy who's thrown into this role of president.
Like how much his personality matters.
Well, also, regardless of qualification. That's as much as anything. And sort of like this interesting thing where you have him playing dual roles in terms of like, and at the same time, it's not sort of dual roles.
Yeah. They're both still him. Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. That little dual roles.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's sort of interesting in terms of, that fish out of water aspect, and sort of like, I think it's sort of interesting because of that sort of, you got this political sort of side story, and you got this guy who's sort of like figuring out his way in this world. And, it's
very good movie, heartfelt movie.
Very good movie. Nominated for writing for Gary Ross. Good on you for that. Great supporting cast: Sigourney Weaver, Frank Langella, Ving Rhames, Ben Kingsley, Charles Grodin, Lori Linney, Bonnie Hunt. Blah, 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 blah.
Just a keychain of people.
I think it's a really interesting film, especially given the political world we live now.
Exactly.
I think the sort of the concepts that's putting out there are really sort of timely in terms of like what would happen, if a U.S. president were to be stricken with coma or killed or whatever. What would we do? What would it do to our country? What is that fear that it would do? Stuff like that. And
how far people who are in control will go to keep control to a certain
exactly.
extent,
Sort of that sort of impact. And I think that's a really interesting topic. So I thought it was really interesting. But the other film I wanted to mention that you weren't sort of sure what we should talk about, we were sort of thinking about a couple films, and ultimately I settled on The Ice Storm to talk about, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Number one, directed by Ang Lee.
Okay. Not a bad start.
Yeah, not a bad start. Good director there. Like Ang Lee, done some interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Brokeback Mountain. I actually enjoy his Hulk quite a bit.
As do I. You and I are probably the only two people in the world that enjoy that Hulk.
Yeah.
But
so,
other than Ang Lee, probably.
But this also starred another actress whom he worked with before. Do you want to take any guesses?
Well, besides the fact that I just looked and saw it, no. So I'll let you say it.
Sigourney Weaver.
Oh.
Boom! Who was nominated for a Golden Globe for her work in this film. Ice Storm is the story about two sort of dysfunctional neighboring families who are connected during a winter storm in Connecticut over a Thanksgiving that involves... Let me throw this at you and see if you think this sounds interesting.
Okay.
Key party,
Okay.
sex, and drugs. Does that sound interesting to you?
Yes.
That sounds like a pretty awesome film to me, and it's interesting.
Even though I will say, doesn't Key Party kind of assume
Yes,
the other two?
it does.
But still.
Let me throw drinking in then.
Okay.
How about that?
There you go.
So, but you got these dysfunctional families that have sort of interconnecting relationships, so to speak. For instance, Kevin Kline is cheating on his wife, Joan Allen, with...
Sigourney Weaver.
Boom, there you go. And then
It's
you
like
have
reading
like
your mind.
interesting kids, fantastic youth casting in this movie. Fantastic youth casting. You got Tobey Maguire,
Okay.
who's in love with Katie Holmes.
Wow.
Does this seem like a familiar relationship? That's because it is, because they did it again in the Wonder Boys.
Boom.
Basically, not same relationship, but reteamed again. You got Christina Ricci.
Wow.
Elijah Wood.
Jeez.
It's just a phenomenally cast film. Really sort of twisted, interesting look at, dysfunction in America in the 70s and, what sort of lurks behind closed doors, so to speak. And I think
What's behind the green door? That's one of.
I think
that's
that's
an
more
early
of a porn thing, yeah. But yes.
I was trying to
Key
make
Party.
a reference to 70s. Come on, Spencer.
Yeah, I'll go with it. But it was nominated for Ang Lee was nominated for the Palme d'Or at
nice.
Cannes for it. It won Best Screenplay at Cannes. It was nominated for Golden Globe for Sigourney Weaver. Very interesting film. I don't think a lot of people have seen it. Deserves to be checked out though. I definitely recommend it. We're checking it out. So check that out.
Yes.
Put that on your Netflix queue. In terms of mainstream, not necessarily quality.
Or popular.
Yes. Probably.
Or liked by most people.
Yes. But perhaps the biggest, and we'll stop doing these arm motions.
We promise.
Yes. Probably the biggest film he was involved with was Wild Wild West.
Unfortunately for him.
The action western adventure where he's co-starring with Will Smith.
Yep.
Set in the West where they're trying to stop an evil villain from destroying
Something.
killing the president, was it? Yeah. Save
Kenneth
President Grant from the clutches of a 19th century inventor villain played by Kenneth Branagh, Dr. Lovelace.
What a great name.
As the song tells you, which was written by Will Smith.
Big Willie.
Big Willie style, yes, that's right. Kevin Kline plays an inventor in of himself, or
that's right.
U.S. Marshal / inventory guy.
Yeah, I forgot. He's the
and plays
sidekicky.
Ulysses S. Grant, taking another dual role as a president. Boom. This is directed by Barry Sonnenfeld, who directed Will Smith and Men in Black. So there's that connection, those two together.
Totally wanted to be another Men in Black.
Well, this is also an interesting film because if you've seen An Evening with Kevin Smith,
Yes.
this is produced by John Peters, who
The infamous John Peters.
Who wanted Kevin Smith to write a Superman project that had a spider
Yes.
as the main
a
villain
giant
at the end.
mechanical spider.
No, I don't know if he was mechanical, just
Yes,
a
but-
giant spider.
Yes, that's right.
Which ultimately ended up being a giant mechanical
Yes.
spider in Wild Wild West.
Yes.
Hilariously funny
Yes.
story. Evening with Kevin Smith 1, great
Yes,
story.
definitely.
Sadly, this film is not fondly remembered. I think it's really kind of campy and over the top and cheesy.
Bad.
Bad performances by most of the people involved, which was not surprisingly recognized by the Razzies. I was trying to think about, in terms of Academy Award winners who are also Razzie winners. And Kevin Kline shares the Razzie for Worst Screen Couple with Will Smith. So I kind of give him it, but one of the obvious ones that popped in my mind was Al Pacino for Jack and Jill. He just won it. I don't know of any others. If you want to do that research, find out, let me know. I'd be very curious to know. But
I think Halle Berry.
probably. She's probably.
For Catwoman.
Yeah, probably a very good guess. But yeah, again, you know, it won, let's see, one Razzie for Worst Picture, Worst Screen Couple, Worst Director, Worst Screenplay, Worst Original Song.
I saw this in the theater, and it was...
Oh, but that's not even the ones it lost. It lost some too. It lost Worst Actor for Kevin Kline. It lost Worst Supporting Actor for Kenneth Branagh. Worst Supporting Actress for Selma Hayek. Worst Supporting Actress for Kevin Kline because he plays a prostitute as well in it. Strangely enough, do you know who does not get their own Worst Acting nomination?
Will Smith?
Yeah. How that happened, I don't know. He's not great in it as well.
And he's the main character, so you would think, oh, come on.
Probably one that everyone involved would like to be forgotten. But, sadly,
pretty much a movie created to be Burger King toys.
Yes,
that's
probably.
Yeah,
or McDonald's. I don't know who had access
Happy
to
Meal.
it. Whoever, some child toy.
Yeah, made in sweatshops in somewhere in Asia.
Yeah, another one that probably most people don't fondly remember, but I'm actually in the minority who enjoyed it, was Life as a House. Life as a House is the story about an architect who's sort of distant from his ex-wife and kids, who gets the diagnosis, I believe, yes, he has terminal cancer. And at which point...
Good old fun cancer movies.
Yeah, at which point he decides to try and, you know, reconnect with his son. I think it's just his son. His wife has another kid from another relationship, sort of bonds with. But this is definitely schmaltzy. It's definitely manipulative. It co-stars Hayden Christensen, who...
Oh, that's right.
...is terrible in the Star Wars movies, but strangely enough, was nominated for a Golden Globe for this role. I personally... really like this movie. I find it really sort of heartfelt. I think the idea of, you know, having to deal with terminal cancer is really an interesting one. I think having to sort of deal with, you know, your legacy and your relationship to your family, what you do there is sort of a really interesting one. And I definitely acknowledge that it's manipulative, but I still think the story is very... interesting and sweet. And I guess there's some weird subplots about, you know, like Hayden Christensen being like a male hustler in part in the movie, which is kind of weird. I mean, it sort of plays into the ultimate way things play out in the movie, but it's still sort of a weird sort of subplot. I mean, Kevin Kline was nominated for a Screen Actor Guild Award for his role.
Well, good on him for that.
It's just, I think it's really... interesting to see people sort of face their own mortality in films, and a lot of times I don't think it's particularly well done, and in this case I thought it was. I definitely am in the minority. I know a lot of people who think this film was manipulative, and I don't dispute that, but I still enjoy it.
Interesting.
And I hope more people check it out because I promote it. This film was directed by Irwin Winkler.
Okay.
Not necessarily a household name, but he directed The Net, which I very much enjoy. He directed At First Sight.
Okay.
The, what's it called? Iceman.
Val Kilmer?
Val Kilmer film where he gains his sight.
Oh, yes, that's one.
And he also directed D. Lovely, the Cole Porter docudrama.
Okay.
Which starred... Take a guess.
Sigourney Weaver.
No. Think easier. Think more straightforward.
I'm drawing a blank right now. I don't know.
What is the segment about?
Kevin Kline.
Boom!
There we go.
There we go. Comes back
Should've
again.
known.
Yeah.
I was like, it's obviously not Kevin Kline. It's obviously not.
I'm trying
the
to
one name I have.
I'm trying to lead you down the path. But definitely worth checking out. I definitely think it's fun. Another interesting one, sort of not quite as good, not quite as successful, still kind of interesting for its own merit, is The Emperor's Club, which stars Kevin Kline as a teacher at a high school or a prep school, who is sort of a Robin Williams, Captain My Captain,
Dead Poet
Society type role, where he sort of, you know, invigorates kids with his story, with his sort of telling of history, and he gets one new student who's the son of a U.S. senator who goes against the grain, played by Emil Hirsch, who doesn't really want to learn. He sort of fights him all the way, and ultimately learns, you know, this kid has had this rough relationship with his father, tries to take him under his wing and ultimately learns, they have this massive emperor, I think it's, I forget what it's called. The Emperor's Club, I think, is where they have this competition at the end of the year to find out, trivia.
Gotcha.
Who's going to be
who's
the best. And ultimately during this competition he discovers Emile Hirsch is cheating. And he sort of doesn't outright call him out on it, but ask him a question that he knows he won't know the answer to, but anyone else who's in that class
would clearly know. Yeah.
And so Emile Hirsch fails, and sort of a little bit heartbroken. Emile Hirsch sort of backslides into his ways. Sad story. Ultimately reunited at a reunion many years later. He's tried to become principal, shot down because they don't think he can fundraise.
Sad.
Emile Hirsch's character wants to try the competition, and he's willing to donate like a student center or whatever, which is the biggest donation they'll ever get. Bring all the people come back. Same thing plays out. Kevin Kline discovers he's cheating again, basically punks him out again, and ultimately starts to question his worth as a teacher because he's had this one massive failure. Ultimately, every other student comes and sort of raises his spirits, and he realizes he had all these successes and that he can't focus on one failure. A very sort of inspirational story.
Only more of us could do that. Focus on.
Well, it's also terrible because Emile Hirsch's character is now running for U.S. Senate. This is all just a way of launching his campaign, and he's being manipulative through that. But it's an interesting film. Worth checking out. It's sort of again, sort of playing on that inspirational story, though it has a much sort of darker spin to it. I guess Dead Poets Society has a dark end story at the end. But the interesting thing that I thought made me really want to go back and rewatch it now is, who's in this film who play students as well?
No.
Little actors I'd never heard of at the time. Paul Dano.
Oh.
Jesse Eisenberg.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, makes me want to go back and be like, hey, look at those little guys.
I wonder if we knew who Emile Hirsch was at the time, or if he was
this is when he was coming out.
Okay.
This is sort of one of those breaking roles for him. And this film was directed by Michael Hoffman, who directed Soap Dish.
Also starring Kevin Kline. Look at that! I got that one. Yeah. I actually knew that. I didn't even cheat with that one. I actually knew that one on my own. Every now and then, some of us without iPads remember things.
Which brings us to now, Darling Companion, directed by Lawrence Kasdan.
Who I'm amazed is still alive.
Yeah.
Like, to be honest.
Doing stuff still.
Got a guy who worked on the original Star Wars movies who's still alive.
Yeah. Well, George Lucas is he's still alive. Well, there's a lot of people involved with that are still alive, to be fair. Anyway, this Darling Companion is the story of a woman who loves her dog as much as her husband, then her husband loses her dog.
What a dick.
Yeah.
Husband played by Kevin Kline?
Yep.
Hey, look at that.
And the wife is played by Diane Keaton.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Sigourney Weaver. I was going to blow my mind a little bit.
That'd be awesome. No. But, talk about an awesome actress to be a lead in film. So you got a wonderful pairing there. You got a great supporting cast with Diane Wiest, Richard Jenkins, Mark Duplass, who's killing it this year so far, which makes me that much more excited about this film because he seems to have the Midas touch as far as I'm concerned this year. Very excited about that. So I definitely let us know your thoughts about Kevin Kline at MacGuffinPodcast.com.
Clearly there's other movies he did that we didn't talk about.
Yeah. So let us know about all those. We know we're not perfect. And join us next week for episode, 138 for our DVD rundown for April 24th.
Yes.
And let us know all your feedback at MacGuffinPodcast.com, Twitter.com/MacGuffinCast, Facebook.com/MacGuffinPodcast. Too fast on our slashes.
Sorry.
Phone number 323-761-9842. Available on iTunes, Blip, Miro, Roku,
Stitcher.
That's more of the audio. That's the audio only one. Again, if you're not listening to that as well, subscribe to that. Check in on Get Glue, and that is MacGuffinPodcast.com/GetGlue.
Yes.
Leave us iTunes reviews on both our video and audio feeds. We'd appreciate it. Thank you very much, and we will see you next time.
T-1000 can't stop me. I'm on fire tonight. Magneto can't stop me. I'm on fire tonight. Even Zod can't stop me. I'm on fire tonight. It's tight, don't even try to bite the side style. Mr. Spock can't stop me. I'm on fire tonight. The Wrath of Khan can't stop me. I'm on fire tonight. The Borg can't stop me. I'm on fire tonight. Because I've got space game and it feels all